Lena Kasparian didn't want her partner, Marc Zartarian, to die. She loved him. But one night they got into an argument and he started physically attacking her. Lena, in desperation, reached for a knife that was in the kitchen sink. She wanted to scare Marc off, protect herself and her 2 young children. Defiantly, he lunged at her and the knife pierced his chest by 14 millimetres. But as tiny as that was, it was enough to kill him. Tonight, we take you back to that awful evening and its chaotic aftermath to see why, in the eyes of the law, Lena went from a victim to a perpetrator and what she had to do to beat a murder charge. .14 millimetres is miniscule, a tiny tip, a mere 1.4 centimetres that will haunt Lena Kasparian for life. The pathologist says it went in about 14 millimetres, which is about that.
A little cut, there was no blood or anything. 14 millimetres, I mean, that's a tiny cut.
Impossibly tiny for the damage it caused, the death of her partner, Marc Zartarian. And for Lena, a charge of murder with the prospect of life in jail. In a split second, one life is taken. Another ruined, as Lena is branded a calculated killer.
You can stab your partner and not be arrested. You can be free. This is what Australian law is.
Tonight we hear as the horror of May the 1st, 2011 unfolded. First, Lena's call to 000.
I stabbed him in the chest with a knife.
Okay, you've stabbed him, Sydney Canberra. You have stabbed your boyfriend in the chest.
Her police interview.
I hope he doesn't die, please God. I don't want his death on my hands, please God. Oh my God, if he dies, I'll just rather rot in jail.
And the little girl who saw it all.
And how did you feel when you saw all this?
Sad.
Sad.
It was a night no one planned, where no one could imagine the outcome or the ramifications.
We're used to seeing women bashed badly, sometimes dying. In this case, it's the man on the floor dying and the woman who's held the knife.
In the eyes of the law, Lena is the attacker. But to this former Supreme Court judge, it's not that simple. He now questions why she faced court at all.
It was a prosecution case that was essentially hopeless from the start.
1, 2, 3.
Lena Kasparian is in her element today.
Okay. Are you going to be able to get the shot?
At the photo shoot for her new After 5 range, this strong, independent fashion designer feels a sense of achievement.
Act natural and put on the jacket.
But it's taken years and a lot of heartache to get here.
Serious. It does hurt when people say nasty things about you and call you a murderer when you know you're not. And, you know, when someone you love dies and you're blamed for it.
To outsiders, Lena and Marc made a happy, loving couple. But in truth, after 10 months together, the relationship was falling apart, with Marc drinking too much and taking drugs.
It got to a point where I told him, like, he needed to leave because I didn't want my kids to be around that. And, you know, he'd cry and he's like, I have no one else. You're the only one I trust. You're the only one I have. And I felt sorry for him.
Was it a volatile relationship?
There was a lot of arguments and he'd, you know, yell at me and swear at me. But
it doesn't sound like you were submissive either in that relationship.
No, I mean, I'd tell him off, why were you drinking today? Why did you lie to me? You know, you promised you're not going to drink anymore.
No one could know it, but Sunday, May the 1st, 2011, would provide the trigger for a random act of violence that would end with a most tragic result. Again, Marc was drunk, and Lena had had enough, so decided to head home from a family party early.
I knew he was going to be out of control and he was going to embarrass me and humiliate me.
What was the drive home like?
Horrible. It was just intense. He was out of control.
Security footage from a drive-through captures the family as they pick up dinner. Lena then heads home, focused on getting her 2 children inside the house and keeping Marc out.
I told Marc to stay outside to cool off. And, you know, he kept yelling and hurling abuse and trying to kick the door in and running into the door and making a racket.
At that point, did you feel in danger?
I was more concerned with the neighbours. I was embarrassed. You know, oh, they're going to hear him now and I better let him in because he's not going to stop.
And that's when Lena made the biggest mistake of her life. She opened the door to Marc. It's a decision Lena regrets to this day.
I remember the look on his face, it wasn't him anymore. And I went into the kitchen to say, you know, are you all right? Like, what's wrong with you? Like, why are you behaving like this? And he slapped me and that's where it all started.
Had he ever hit you before?
No. He's pushed me around before, but he's never actually physically slapped me like that.
So what did you do in response?
I was at that point telling him, you know, you need to leave. I can't deal with you anymore. And that's when he picked up the saucepan.
It was to be a new level of aggression. As Marc grabbed the saucepan from the sink, Lena's 3-year-old son and 5-year-old daughter heard the arguing and came running in to their mum. So tell me what Marc did with the saucepan.
Striking me over my head. In full force. And I remember just trying to block him and at the same time push my son away. And my ears started ringing, so it the sound just went.
This crime scene photo of the damaged and misshapen saucepan shows just how ferociously Marc attacked her.
I'll never forget my kids screaming, you know, having my son wrapped around my leg, screaming and crying, and my daughter trying to protect me, kicking Marc from behind, telling him, leave my mummy alone.
No, stay away from me.
Coming up,
I just held it up to my chest and I said, stay away from me.
pushed to the brink. Was he aware of the knife, do you think?
Yeah, just kept saying, all right, stab me, do it, go on, stab me.
When self-defense is no excuse.
I was like, oh my God, what just happened? And I saw the tip of the knife had a little bit of blood on it. And I was like, okay, I need to call an ambulance.
That's next on 60 Minutes. Lena Kasparian is under a brutal and surprise attack from her partner, Marc Zartarian, who is drunk and angry. With her young children around her legs, Lena's in a desperate situation.
I was dealing with a demon of some sort and trying to protect my kids and keep them alive.
It's now that Marc loses his grip on the saucepan. It was the split second Lena needed and the reflex response that changed everything.
I just reached out to see what else there was there that I can use to protect myself, and the knife that I was using the night before was still in the drain, and so I grabbed it. And I just held it up to my chest and I said, "Stay away from me."
Was he aware of the knife, do you think?
Yeah. At that point, he saw the knife in my hand and then he started pacing and chest out and just kept saying, "All right, stab me, do it. Go on, stab me, do it, do it." It's like, that's not the reaction I was waiting for. I was waiting for him to just sort of walk away and leave the room.
This is the same sized and branded knife as the one Lena had picked up, an incredibly sharp 16-centimetre boning knife, a knife she insists she never planned to use.
And he just sort of lunged towards me, and I don't know if he tripped or if he missed a step or if he... I don't know. But at one point he just came too close and I'm still holding the knife at my chest, you know, firmly. And I think at that point I realised that the tip of the knife had gone into his shirt, and I think he felt some sort of cut, and we just looked at each other with this sort of gasp and like, I was frozen. Like, it's like time just stopped. We just had that eye-to-eye kind of connection, and I think I had that shock in my face where I was like, oh my God, what just happened? And he was like, sort of, oh no, like, what did I do? And then he just sort of took a step back. And as soon as he walked away from me, I quickly grabbed my kids and just pushed them into the laundry and ran in there, knife still in my hand, same position. And I saw the tip of the knife had a little bit of blood on it. I was like, okay, I need to call an ambulance.
Hello?
Hello, this is...
I need police in the emergency.
It was so hard. I dropped the phone a couple of times and I think I actually fell to my knees because my knees had gone weak. Just trying to comprehend what just happened.
I need an ambulance.
Yeah, okay, stay on the line. I'm getting the message off straight away.
At that time, did you think that it was serious?
No. No. You know, there was no force. He was alive. He wasn't dead. There was no blood gushing anywhere. There was nothing. It was just a tiny little cut. 14 millimetres.
He's conscious.
Is he breathing much?
He's all right. He's walking around the house.
Or is he bleeding?
It's just a small cut.
Small cut.
But the injury is much worse than anyone knows. While Lena and her children are still cowering in the laundry, Marc is walking around the house phoning friends. Then suddenly he calls out for Lena.
I heard him say, "I can't breathe." So I ran out, just screaming and crying and telling him, you know, please don't die on me. Like, don't stay. Don't close your eyes. Don't. Keep breathing.
The sharp knife had gone through Marc's skin. Incredibly and desperately unluckily, it had missed cartilage and ribs to pierce his heart.
Okay, what's happened?
My boyfriend just attacked me and I stabbed him in the chest with a knife.
It's her words in this phone call that sees Lena go from victim to perpetrator. By using the phrase, "I stabbed him," in her emergency call, Lena made herself sound like the attacker.
You have stabbed your boyfriend in the chest.
I can't hear you, sorry.
You stabbed your boyfriend in the chest,
Because he
yeah?
attacked me with... He was hitting me. I don't know.
Peter Doyle, Lena's barrister, blames her choice of words on the shock she was suffering. So the suggestion that he might have stabbed himself by walking onto the knife is never made in those early moments. Why is that?
Obviously, it was a highly charged, very emotional situation. She was distraught. She had her children with her. The person whom she loved was on the ground bleeding. It's not the easiest time to pick the best choice of words.
How do you explain something like that just happened? I'm holding a knife and, you know, the knife went into his chest. So I was in so much shock. I was like, I just stabbed him. Oh my God.
The damage was done, and in the eyes of the law, Lena was now the attacker.
So when I opened the door, there was 2 young cops. He said, "Put your weapons down." That was the first thing I heard him say to me. I was like, what are you talking about? So I reached out to him and grabbed his hand and pulled him in. I said, come and help me. He needs help, he's not breathing. And they walked into the kitchen and they just stood there. And I just looked at them, why aren't you doing anything? He goes, oh, we can't touch him, but you're under arrest.
Lena tells police she was only trying to defend herself and protect her children. But instead, she is arrested for grievous bodily harm and immediately handcuffed.
I was baffled. I was like, hang on, I called 000, I asked for the ambulance, I called for help, but I'm being treated as the baddie. No one's even listening to me. I'm saying, hang on, I was the one being attacked.
Peter Doyle says, presented with the facts as they then knew them, police had no other option.
They had a person who admitted having a knife in their hand and when the knife entered his chest. So I'm not critical of the police at first instance for their actions.
Less than an hour after the attack, and a now unconscious Marc is rushed to hospital for emergency heart surgery. Police separate Lena from her children and take her to the garage where she wants to give a statement to reveal what Marc had done.
As much as I was the victim in that situation, they at that point thought that Marc was the victim. So I just wanted to explain to them that this is what happened, this is the situation, and I was cuffed.
Coming up, police tapes reveal Lena's chilling account.
Obviously, the knife went into his chest.
What her 5-year-old saw.
He hit her head twice.
And Lena's world thrown into chaos.
I couldn't accept it.
By Marc's unbelievable death.
I just said, no, you're lying, you won't die.
That's next on 60 Minutes.
I brought the kids inside and I closed the door and I said to him, stay outside and go for a walk.
In her own chilling words. This is the actual audio of Lena Kasparian's candid first interview with police, recorded on their phone in her garage.
And he grabbed the saucepan and he came at me and he hit me on my head twice. And you can see the bends.
Here she explains how, at her hands, her partner, Marc Zartarian, was stabbed in the heart.
And that's when I had the knife in my hand and I said, just get away from me. And he kept coming towards me and saying, stab me, like really, with all his heart, like, stab me, do it. And he just kept coming into me and he hit me on my face and obviously the knife went into his chest.
Lena maintains she was only ever trying to scare Marc away. She never wanted to hurt him. And in her initial interview with detectives, she is clearly distraught and terribly worried about Marc.
Please, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, please God, I'm so sorry. I'm so scared. I don't want him to die.
hours later, an exhausted Lena was interviewed again, this time at the police station. And again, her story was the same.
He hit me in my head a couple of times. And that's when I grabbed the knife to defend myself. And the kids were right under my legs.
They were all consistent with each other, that Marc had been intoxicated, that he was being violent, and that he'd been assaulting her, and that she acted in self-defence.
The next day, without Lena's knowledge or permission, her 5-year-old daughter was interviewed by a specially trained female police officer.
So I've been told that this boy did something else to Mum. What did he do?
He got a pen and he hit her head twice.
Okay. And where was Mum when this boy did this to Mum?
In the kitchen.
In the kitchen.
For over an hour, the little girl bravely answered the questions.
And what did Mum do when this boy hit your mum over the head with the pan twice?
My mum got a knife.
Yeah? And what did your mum do with the knife?
She cut him because he hit him on the head.
Marc lay in a coma for the next 6 days before his life support was switched off.
I think I just fell to my knees and I couldn't accept it. I just said, no, you're lying, he didn't die. You know, I just lost a man that I love and didn't get a chance to say goodbye to him or be by his side or to say sorry or to say, you know, I forgive you. Didn't get to do any of that stuff, so just... I felt robbed.
Did you know that his death would mean a murder charge for you?
No, not at that point. Not at that point.
So your grief was about him?
Yeah.
It wasn't for yourself at that point?
No, it was about him.
On the day of Marc's funeral, a funeral she wasn't allowed to attend, Lena's charge was upgraded to murder.
And I was so angry, saying, why? Like, he just got buried today and they've come to serve me with murder charges. I didn't even get to mourn his death, nothing.
When you were told about the charge being increased, along with the anger, how fearful were you about your future?
I asked my lawyer, you know, if I don't win this, what am I looking at? You know, how many years am I going to miss out on my children? And he said, you know, with murder charges, anywhere up to 20 years. I was just so angry and scared.
Do you think it was a mistake to pick up the knife?
Yeah, I regret picking up the knife, but then, you know, what am I going to pick up? A wooden spoon? What's that going to do? And then if I didn't pick up the knife, would he have picked up the knife and used it against me? So it was just an instant reaction to defend myself and to try to scare him off and you know, maternal instinct. I just wanted to protect my children.
Coming up.
It's very sad to see this place.
Lena returns to face the nightmare.
Someone shot a gun through that front window.
And the murder trial that should never have happened.
If she was out of control, the knife would have gone in much farther than just a 14 mil.
That's next on 60 Minutes. So it's been a while.
It
since
has
you've
been a
here.
while. Haven't been back since 2012, since I moved out. So
How do you feel about
almost
coming
6
back?
years. Strange. It's very sad to see this place. A lot of bad memories, I guess.
This was the home Lena Kasparian shared with her partner, Marc Zartarian. Following his death, it was again the scene of another terrifying event. Tell me what happened.
Well, someone shot a gun through that front window, and it happened at about, I think, 1 in the morning. I think they found four bullets. So I called the police. Someone tried to shoot me or try to scare me or threaten me, I don't know what.
Western Sydney's latest drive-by victims, a mother and her 6-year-old daughter. A bullet hole in the front window of their home, a reminder of how close...
Her barrister, Peter Doyle, visited Lena at her house immediately following the shooting.
Quite easily someone could have been killed or injured from that.
Do you believe it was connected or coincidence?
Be a big coincidence. So I think it was connected. But I got no idea who did it, who was responsible.
Waiting for her murder trial and rocked to the core by the shooting attack on her home, all Lena could do was try to return to the routine of her life. Going into the trial, were you confident that a jury would believe you?
Yeah, I had to. And, you know, I don't believe in lies, and I've always told the truth, and I believe that God is watching. I believe in God.
At Lena's trial, it was revealed the neighbours had been watching too and were called as witnesses to testify against her. It was in this courtroom that Lena learned for the first time the evidence gathered from her neighbours. Many had heard the fight, even seen parts of it, and yet no one had done anything to stop it. One neighbour describes how he watched on from his backyard, which overlooked Lena's kitchen. He told the court he heard Marc yell 2 to 3 times, "Go on, do it, be a man." He was so close, he says he could see the veins in Marc's neck sticking out. What did you think about that for your case?
It was excellent. It corroborated what she was saying. When you look at the evidence of different neighbours on their own, might not have meant anything, but when you considered what they were all saying when looking at what she'd said in her interviews to the police, they were all confirming different aspects of her interview.
Ultimately, Lena's self-defence case rested on the size of the stab wound inflicted on Marc.
It was just very unfortunate that it just happened to pierce his heart. Now, if she was out of control, if she had lost it, you would have thought she'd be thrusting the knife, and that the knife would have gone in much farther than just a 14 mil.
In one of the fastest murder trials ever in New South Wales, it was all over after just 3 days of hearings. The jury accepted Lena acted in self-defence and acquitted her of murder. When the jury came back with their decision, what was that moment like?
My heart was beating really fast. And I just took a deep breath and I had to stand up. And I just heard her say, "Not guilty." And it just sort of, it didn't really register, you know. I was like, what just happened? And I think I was in shock. I was like, is that it? Like, is it over?
This was a simple case where a woman was being terrorised, in effect, by her partner.
It was a case that never should have gone to trial, according to retired Supreme Court Judge Anthony Wooley.
That was really a hopeless Crown case. Once the facts were assembled, I think the Director of Public Prosecutions in this case really should have said, let's be courageous, let's acknowledge that it needn't go to trial. Because going to trial is expensive, it's time-consuming, it's emotionally horrific for everybody involved, and I think in this case it could have been avoided.
Why didn't the Office of the DPP use its discretion? Why didn't it use its common sense?
Well, I can only guess, but I would think that people just didn't look at it carefully enough. And if anyone had just concentrated on the factual elements I've mentioned, they would have seen that it was just a waste of time.
Coming up, acquitted but not forgiven.
I feel sorry for his mum, you know, and I feel her pain and her anger towards me.
You can stab your partner and go. You would not be arrested. You can be free. This is what Australian law is.
Vilified and branded Australia's Black Widow.
The media too painted you in a certain way, suggested you'd got away with murder.
Yeah. Am I supposed to wail and cry like a crazy person?
That's next on 60 Minutes. Hello, I'm Tara Brown. Thanks for watching. To keep up with the latest from 60 Minutes Australia, make sure you subscribe to our channel. You can also download the 9Now app for full episodes and other exclusive 60 Minutes content.